Hi, this video is about sharpening knives on the Tormek Whetstone grinder system. Now if you own a Tormek and you're into sharpening knives, you already have seen, I guess, plenty of videos on YouTube which show you this arrangement. You have the long knife jig, the knife clamped into it. This is a big kitchen knife. A guide here which runs on the guide bar of the Tormek, and you simply adjust things to make an angle, usually of 20 degrees for each side of the blade, and you just run it along the blade to sharpen it. When you come to the end, there's a trick of raising the handle so that you follow along with the curve on the end. So that works absolutely brilliantly for large knives. And if you sharpen both sides of that and strop it, you'll get a really sharp knife indeed. But then you come to sharpening little knives, like this little pocket knife with a pointed end. And for that, this is, I'm afraid to say, useless. Now this is the a long knife sharpening jig, and Tormek do actually market a small one, but from what I can see, for knives this size it would have exactly the same problems, and I haven't seen any positive reviews of it on YouTube. The problem here is twofold if you use this approach. First of all, because as you try and adjust the angle, the grindstone fouls this blade. You can only get something like a 45-degree angle at best to sharpen there, which is far too much. Secondly, there's no way that you can sharpen the curved bit at the top. It's not exposed. You need to sharpen that bit by basically keeping it at the 20-degree angle, but actually raising it so the grindstone follows the curve. So I'm afraid for small knife jigs we can forget this, and probably forget the small knife version of that. So let's look now at a jig which is cheap, can be made of scrap wood and works brilliantly. So to make this jig, start off with a block of wood about 4 inches wide, 1.5 inches thick, more or less as thick as the grinding wheel that you are using. This is a diamond wheel. We only need to use about 6 inches or so of this. And in one corner make a 12.5mm hole, because that will allow it to very nicely pivot on the 12mm guide bar on the Tormek. So now we're going to basically cut a curve so it will rest nicely on the Tormek machine. So we hold this against the wheel and just draw around that. So once we've cut out this curve here, we can then make a register surface in order to sharpen the blade. Okay, so having prepared our blank, we can now put this onto the wheel and adjust the guide bar so it just fits snugly. You want it to be touching the wheel about this point so that we can actually now cut our register surface for grinding. So to find out exactly the best place for the register to start, we pick something like that. The register surface is going to be 20 degrees to the tangent here, so it's going to be something like that, and we might need a reasonable size. So here I'm going to come pretty well vertically, and the first thing I'm going to do is to draw the radius on the wheel. So that line is radial to the center of the wheel. So now with the blank off the grindstone, we're now going to set our register surface for the cutting angle. Now the knife is going to be ground at this point here, and it's going to be ground basically with its surface at a tangent to the wheel at that point. So in principle we've got something like the tangent there, and we want 20 degrees cutting angle. 20 degrees there, 20 degrees on the other edge gives us a 40-degree edge, which is what we're normally looking for, although of course you can make as many jigs as you want with different angles. Now it's quite tricky trying to find the exact tangent here, but fortunately we remember from our high school geometry that the tangent is at a right angle to the radius, and we've got the radial line. So instead of trying to get 20 degrees here, we can just get 70 degrees from this point. Now you can mess around with a protractor here to try and do it, but I find it's easier just to cut a blank like this. So now we can draw a line here, and if we cut this piece off here, then when this is mounted on the wheel, a knife, I'm using the big knife here for illustration, held against that surface will be ground at exactly 20 degrees. Okay, so let's see if this works. I've got a knife here which I've rubbed on a diamond stone to make sure it's not sharp, as you can see. And we've got the jig mounted on the wheel and just resting at this point here, and the water bath raised. So now we can start the machine and so I'm just drawing the knife pressed against the register surface here, along through between the register surface and the grindstone, lightly holding this down to stop the knife slipping under. We now have to do this on the other side. of passes should be sufficient. If you're not ambidextrous, doing that with your left hand, you can always turn the whole machine round and do it from this side with your right hand. So the last thing we have to do is to give this a bit of a strop. Temporarily remove that. Okay, that feels pretty good to me. See if that's worked. I reckon that's good enough for a pocket knife. So you can also, of course, do other knives on this. You can do very small knives, like the small knife on this Swiss Army knife. You can do this one, which is stainless steel Gerber, which I always found particularly difficult to sharpen any other way. Yeah. And of course, if you can't be bothered to get out the special long knife jig, you can always touch your kitchen knife up on here as well. So that works for me, and I hope it works for you. Thanks for watching.